Elvis's first professional audition lasted exactly 4 minutes before they stopped him and said, "That's enough." But what happened in the parking lot afterward created a legend. It was January 4th, 1954, and 19-year-old Elvis Presley was sitting in his beat-up 1942 Lincoln Continental in the parking lot of Sun Records in Memphis, Tennessee. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the steering wheel. He'd been sitting there for 45 minutes, trying to build up the courage to walk through that door. Elvis had been dreaming about this moment for years. Sun Records was where the magic happened, where blues legends and country stars got their start. The owner, Sam Phillips, had a reputation for finding raw talent and turning it into something special. This was Elvis's shot, his chance to prove that all those years of practicing, all those nights singing on the porch, all those times people told him his voice was interesting, actually meant something. But Elvis was terrified. He'd never done a real professional audition before. Sure, he'd sung at school, at church, at local events. But this was different. This was the music business, and Elvis was just a truck driver with a dream and a voice he wasn't even sure was good enough. Finally, at 3:47 p.m., Elvis forced himself out of the truck. He'd borrowed his daddy's good shirt for this. His mama had pressed his pants so many times the creases could cut butter. His hair was slicked back with enough pomade to waterproof a boat. He grabbed his guitar from the passenger seat and walked toward the door before he could change his mind. Inside Sun Records, Marion Keisker was manning the front desk. She was Sam Phillips's assistant and the person who handled most of the walk-in auditions. Marion had heard hundreds of hopefuls come through that door, and she could usually tell within 30 seconds whether someone had potential or was wasting her time. Elvis walked in and immediately felt out of place. The walls were covered with photos of real musicians, people who'd made records, people who mattered, and here he was, just a kid who drove a truck for Crown Electric Company. "Can I help you?" Marion asked, looking up from her paperwork. Elvis cleared his throat. "Yes, ma'am. I'd like to audition. If that's possible." "If you're hearing people today," Marion studied him for a moment. He looked nervous enough to throw up, but there was something about his intensity that caught her attention. "What kind of music do you sing?" "All kinds, ma'am. I can sing ballads, gospel, country, blues. Whatever you need. Who do you sound like?" Elvis hesitated. This was the question that always tripped him up. "I don't sound like nobody, ma'am. I just sound like me." Marion had heard that answer before from singers who couldn't carry a tune, but something about the way Elvis said it, with equal parts pride and fear, made her curious. "Sam's in the back working on something, but I can record you doing a test track. It costs $4. If Sam likes what he hears, he might call you back for a real audition." Elvis's heart sank. He had exactly $3.72 in his pocket. He'd been planning to use that money to buy gas for the truck so he could get to work the next day. "Ma'am, I've got $3.72. Is there any way—" "That's fine," Marion interrupted. She'd bent this rule before for kids who clearly couldn't afford it. "Come on back." Elvis followed her into the tiny recording booth, his guitar feeling heavy in his hands. Marion set up the equipment and handed him a pair of headphones that had been patched with electrical tape. "What are you going to sing?" she asked. "My Happiness," Elvis said. "It was my mama's favorite song." "All right." When you're ready, Marion hit record and Elvis began to sing. His voice came out shaky at first, nervous and unsure. But then something happened. He closed his eyes and forgot about the recording equipment, forgot about Marion watching him, forgot about everything except the song. His voice found its groove, that unique blend of country twang and R&B soul that didn't quite sound like anyone else. Marion's eyebrows raised. This kid didn't sound like the other country singers who came through. He didn't sound like the blues singers either. He sounded like something in between, something she'd never quite heard before. Elvis made it through the first verse and was heading into the second when the door to the recording booth suddenly opened. Sam Phillips walked in, looking annoyed. "Marion, what's—" Sam stopped when he saw Elvis in the booth. "Just doing a test recording," Marion said. "This is—" She realized she didn't know his name. "Elvis Presley, sir," Elvis said, pulling off the headphones, his heart sinking. He could tell from Sam's expression that this interruption meant the audition was over. Sam crossed his arms and stared at Elvis for a long moment. Play me something else. Something up-tempo. Elvis's hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped his guitar. He launched into a fast version of That's All Right, a blues song by Arthur Crudup that Elvis had been obsessing over for months. He sang it with every ounce of energy he had, pouring his whole soul into those 4 minutes. But exactly 4 minutes in, Sam held up his hand. That's enough. Elvis stopped mid-verse, his heart plummeting into his stomach. That's enough. The words every auditioner dreads. Sam looked at Marion, then back at Elvis. Son, what are you trying to do here? Sir? What kind of music are you trying to make? Because what I just heard was... Sam paused, searching for words. It's confused. You're mixing up blues and country like they're the same thing. You can't do that. You've got to pick a lane and stay in it. Elvis felt his face burning. I just sing what I feel, sir. Well, what you feel isn't commercially viable, Sam said bluntly. Country radio won't play you because you sound too black. Black radio won't play you because you're white and you're singing their music wrong. You're stuck in no man's land. Marion started to speak up, but Sam was on a roll. And that guitar playing, you're adequate at best. Your voice is interesting, I'll give you that. But interesting doesn't sell records. People want familiar. They want to hear something they recognize. What you're doing is too different, too weird. Elvis stood there holding his guitar, feeling every word like a punch to the gut. My advice, Sam continued, stick to truck driving. You've got a steady job, right? Keep that job. Music isn't going to work out for you. You don't fit anywhere. Yes, sir, Elvis whispered. Thank you for your time. Elvis walked out of that recording booth, through the front office and out to his truck. He made it about 30 feet into the parking lot before the tears started. He sat in his truck, crying so hard he could barely breathe, still clutching his guitar. Everything Sam Phillips had said echoed in his head. Too different, too weird, doesn't fit anywhere, stick to truck driving. Elvis had spent years believing he had something special. His mama had told him he was destined for greatness. Teachers had said his voice was unique. But now a real professional, someone who actually knew the music business, had told him the truth. He wasn't good enough. He'd never be good enough. Elvis cried in that parking lot for nearly 2 hours. He watched the sun start to set, watched other people come and go from Sun Records, watched his dreams crumble into dust. Then, something shifted. Elvis wiped his eyes and looked at his reflection in the rearview mirror. He looked like hell. Eyes red, face blotchy, hair messed up from running his hands through it. But underneath all that, he saw something else. He saw his mama's face when she'd given him that guitar. He saw the lunch lady who'd fed him for free so he could chase this dream. He saw the mechanic who'd given him work so he could buy guitar strings. He saw every person who'd ever believed in him, and Elvis got angry. Sam Phillips had said he was too different. Well, maybe being different was exactly what the world needed. Sam said he didn't fit anywhere. Well, maybe it was time to create a place where he did fit. Elvis started his truck and drove straight to his parents' apartment. He found his mama in the kitchen, and she took one look at his face and knew something had happened. Baby, what's wrong? I auditioned at Sun Records today, Elvis said. Sam Phillips told me to stick to truck driving, said my music was too confused, too different, said I'd never make it. Gladys pulled her son into a hug. That man don't know everything. Mama, he's Sam Phillips. He knows the music business. If he says I'm not good enough... Elvis Aaron Presley, you listen to me. Gladys grabbed his face in her hands. That man told you that you don't fit into the boxes he knows. That's his limitation, not yours. You're not supposed to fit into their boxes. You're supposed to build your own. Elvis pulled away, frustrated. Mama, you don't understand. He's right. I sing country music with blues feeling. I sing blues music with country twang. I don't sound like anybody else, and that's not a good thing in the music business. That's exactly why it's a good thing, Gladys insisted. Baby, there are a million singers who sound like everybody else. The world don't need another one of those. The world needs someone who sounds like nobody else. The world needs you. Elvis wanted to believe her, but Sam Phillips' words were still fresh in his mind. I'm going to tell you something, Gladys said. You remember when you were rejected from the school choir? Yes, ma'am. And you remember what I told you then? You said being different was special. And I was right, wasn't I? You didn't need their choir. You've been making your own music ever since. This is the same thing, baby. Sam Phillips don't see what you are yet. But that don't mean what you are isn't valuable. It just means he's not ready to understand it. Elvis sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. Mama, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Keep getting rejected. Keep being told I'm not good enough. Yes, you can, Gladys said firmly. And you know why? Because every time somebody tells you no, you're going to use that as fuel. You're going to prove them wrong. That's what strong people do. They turn pain into power. That night, Elvis made a decision. He took the $3.72 from his pocket and used it to buy a small notebook. On the first page, he wrote down exactly what Sam Phillips had said. Too different, too weird, doesn't fit anywhere. Stick to truck driving. Then, underneath those words, Elvis wrote his own response. I'll show you what different can do. Over the next few months, Elvis didn't give up. He kept practicing, he kept playing at local venues, he kept singing on the radio when amateur shows would have him, and he kept developing that unique sound that Sam Phillips had dismissed as confused. In June of 1954, just 5 months after that devastating audition, Marion Keisker called Elvis. Sam Phillips had been looking for a white singer who could sing black music with authenticity, and Marion had never forgotten the kid with the shaky hands and the unusual voice. Sam wants you to come in and record something, Marion said. Are you interested? Elvis almost dropped the phone. Yes, ma'am. When? Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. And Elvis? Sam doesn't remember you from the audition in January. Don't remind him. Just come in and sing. Elvis showed up the next night with his guitar and his heart pounding out of his chest. Sam Phillips was there with 2 session musicians, Scotty Moore on guitar and Bill Black on bass. They worked for hours, trying different songs, different styles, nothing quite clicking. Then, during a break, Elvis started fooling around with That's All Right, the same song he'd been singing when Sam Phillips had stopped him 5 months earlier and told him to stick to truck driving. But this time, something was different. Elvis wasn't singing it to impress anyone. He wasn't trying to fit into a category or sound like someone else. He was just playing, having fun, letting his natural style come out. Scotty and Bill joined in, and suddenly the room came alive with a sound that nobody had quite heard before. It was country, but it wasn't. It was blues, but it wasn't. It was something entirely new. Sam Phillips rushed into the recording area. What was that? What are you doing? Elvis stopped, afraid he'd done something wrong again. Just messing around, sir. Do that again, Sam demanded. Do exactly what you just did. They recorded That's All Right in 1 take. When it was done, Sam Phillips looked at Elvis with something like awe in his eyes. Son, I don't know what that was, but it's going to be huge. Elvis wanted to remind Sam that 5 months earlier he'd called this same style confused and not commercially viable, but he kept his mouth shut and smiled. That's All Right was released in July 1954. Within weeks, it was the most requested song on Memphis radio. Within months, Elvis Presley was playing sold-out shows. Within 2 years, he was the biggest star in America. In 1956, Sam Phillips sold Elvis's contract to RCA for $35,000, the most money ever paid for a recording artist up to that point. During the contract negotiations, Sam pulled Elvis aside. You know what's funny, Sam said. I almost let you slip away. When you came in for that test recording back in January of 1954, I told you to stick to truck driving. You remember that? Elvis pulled out his wallet and showed Sam the small notebook he still carried. On the first page were Sam's words about being too different, followed by Elvis's response about proving him wrong. I remember, Mr. Phillips. I remember every word you said. Sam looked at that notebook and shook his head. Elvis, I was wrong. Dead wrong. You weren't too different. I was too scared of different. Thank God Marion convinced me to give you another shot. It's okay, Mr. Phillips, Elvis said. You taught me something important that day. What's that? That when someone tells you you're too different to succeed, they're really telling you they're too limited to understand. And that's not your problem. It's theirs. Elvis kept that notebook for the rest of his life. He'd pull it out whenever he felt discouraged or when someone told him he couldn't do something. It reminded him that rejection isn't failure. It's just someone else's inability to see what you see in yourself. Sam Phillips's rejection in January 1954 could have ended Elvis's career before it started. Instead, it became the fuel that drove him to prove everyone wrong. The man who told Elvis he was too different to succeed ended up discovering the most successful entertainer in history. But only after Elvis refused to believe that being different was a weakness. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to us is having someone tell us we'll never make it, because that's when we find out what we're really made of. That's when we discover whether we believe in ourselves more than we believe in their limitations. Elvis was told to stick to truck driving. Instead, he drove right past every person who doubted him and changed music history forever. If this story of rejection turned into motivation inspired you, make sure to subscribe and share this video. Let us know in the comments if someone ever told you that you weren't good enough and what you did about it. Sometimes the best revenge is simply proving them wrong by becoming exactly who you were meant to be.